Today for Devotions with Daniella, we are reading Generation Hope, How Inclusive Economics Can Help Us All Thrive by R.J. Katakam. This is a chapter called Reimagining Community. He's just talked about giving up Amazon Prime and shopping more intentionally. In 2017, I joined Ignite, a remote startup accelerator based in the UK and the first co-op fund I had encountered in the startup world. Unite asked all its portfolio companies to give 1% of their shares to the fund in exchange for 1 share for each founder. This meant that the community of founders could take part in each other's success, which made sense, especially because the community generally plays such a big role in helping each other. It also proved to be a great self-selection tool. I was surprised by the number of founders who didn't want to give up 1% of their company. Ignite didn't want them. They viewed those founders as selfish and took their resistance as a sign they might extract from the community and not reciprocate. In December 2022, the first startup exit took place. Tristan Watson, one of Ignite's co-founders, messaged us saying, "Don't get too excited. No one will be buying Teslas, but it might cover a new laptop." Each of us got £1,255, a decent Christmas bonus, and a nice way to say thank you for the support and camaraderie. Here's another option for startup founders. Founders Pledge, a London-based charitable initiative in which entrepreneurs commit to donating a portion of their personal proceeds to charity when they sell their shares. Y Combinator, YC, the most famous startup accelerator in the world, adopted this scheme in 2016. Founders interested in giving back can commit to donate a meaningful percentage of their personal proceeds to social causes following an exit. Here's a footnote that says, a startup exit refers to the process by which founders, investors, or other stakeholders of a startup exit or realize their investment in the company, typically by selling their ownership stakes to a larger company, private equity firm, venture capital firm, or through an initial public offering, IPO. A successful exit is a significant milestone for startups and can provide financial returns and liquidity for the stakeholders involved. And when I tell you all that the reason I got a mega traditional book deal with a big advance, kind of like an exit, is because I was working in entrepreneurship with startups at the time, and I realized that book companies were the venture capitalist investors for individuals. The current average is 11%, and over 500 entrepreneurs have taken the pledge. To increase its impact, Founders Pledge recently launched Pledge Ventures with a hope to supercharge for good projects in a new way. Pledge Ventures will donate 85% of carried interest and up to 50% of management fees back to Founders Pledge to fund operations, build up long-term capital endowment, and scale its impact. The difference is that for YC's founders, participation is optional, while for Ignite's founders, it's compulsory. However it gets done, an inclusive economy requires us to make impactful giving the norm, not the exception. You often hear expressions like cutthroat and hard as nails to describe business people whose success is attributed to their ruthlessness. The deeper problem is that at this stage in history, competition is no longer helping us survive. In fact, it is the threat. And yet, traditional structures of business and investing are still operating on old assumptions. We're often asked, what is your competitive advantage? Which assumes we want to take market shares, customers, attention, rather than co-create or collaborate on something new. Building a startup is hard work, and for founders, the payoff often just covers opportunity cost, or what they would have earned over that period of time if they had stayed in a salaried job. It's only those with the huge exits that we read about who make it big. And that represents an incredibly small percentage. My Ignite cohort had 8 startups, and mine didn't make it across the line, along with 4 others. Of the remaining 3, 5 years later, only 1 had an exit. In his book, Collaborative Advantage, How Collaboration Beats Competition as a Strategy for Success, strategic consultant and social entrepreneur Paul Skinner argues that we now have reached a turning point in history where creating a competitive advantage may no longer be in the best interests of an organization. I couldn't agree with Skinner more when he says collaborative advantage is about galvanizing from both inside and outside your organization around a common purpose so that together you can achieve a scale of success which would be impossible from acting alone. I believe the concept of a collaborative advantage is so powerful that it could be more disruptive than even technological innovation, at least in this decade. This is a big part of why I'm reading this book for my daily process of deprogramming the bad stuff, because I have a company, Knitting Cult Lady brand, and I am trying to learn how to do all of it in the most least capitalist way possible. And my goal is to just make money from my house for the rest of my life, talking and doing interesting projects and writing interesting things. And I don't need to get rich really fast. I can do it by paying people well and giving back and all of this stuff. I also think when we look at competitiveness in the book world, it's a little bit silly, because if you read one good book, as soon as you're done, if you're a reader, you know what's going to happen. You want another one just like it. So I think book authors are constantly in collaboration with each other, not competition. Speaking of which, I'm going to Soraya Shamali's new book launch this week, this Friday. And if you want to come with me, there is a link in the bio where you can sign up. As minimalist Daniel Swellow says beautifully, there's not a creature or even a particle in the universe that is self-sufficient. We're all dependent on everyone else. The co-op model is not for everyone, but there's no reason not to try something new. And there's every reason to step outside the confines of a winner-takes-all mindset. A mix of corporations, B Corps, and co-ops would be a good way forward out of our current economic model. So would a movement of people willing to rethink their spending, withdraw their participation in shareholder capitalism, and value people over capital. Individually, we can only move from winner takes all to everyone wins by reaching a level of self-acceptance that turns our focus away from comparison and onto community. When we do so collectively, we can take the next steps towards everyone thrives. 22 centuries after Julius Caesar's divide and conquer strategy was imprinted on our society. This is the true antidote to the global threats we face. Community collaboration, not competitive division. The power is in all of our hands. By coming together, we are empowered to do, be, and create something bigger than ourselves, for more than just ourselves. Ready to get connected? If you're interested in following along with this book, you can get copies attached here.